before the break. We got a little John going on. Caitlin says, hey, you and me, Hayes, you and me.
This is how you bring the roof down. All tied up here with 5:14 to go.
That's all what the numbers are. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Myisha Hines-Allen is the most impactful defender when it comes to pure points in the league. And Caitlin has chosen wisely. Shout out to Caitlin, man. Let Caitlin be the GM, man. Why not, man? Amber Cox, clean your desk out. Get out of here.
There is a harsh and undeniable truth about today's WNBA that the league's leadership often tries to downplay. The game is played with a level of physical intensity that can feel outdated and overwhelming, especially for top offensive players who constantly face pressure and contact meant to disrupt their rhythm. For more than 2 seasons, Caitlin Clark has had to adjust to this environment largely on her own, taking heavy contact and aggressive defense while the Indiana Fever organization remained relatively quiet. But that era of passive, controlled basketball feels like it is over. Caitlin Clark is now firmly stepping into a leadership role within the franchise, influencing direction and decisions in a way that signals her growing control over the team's identity. In this breakdown from WNBA Pro, we take a closer look at what appears to be Clark's rising influence within the Indiana Fever setup. We combined on-court intensity with defensive analytics to understand the impact behind recent roster decisions. If you assume the addition of Myisha Hines-Allen was just a routine signing, there is more beneath the surface that needs to be examined. We'll break down how this move fits into the bigger picture, look at the defensive numbers she brings, and why it signals a shift that opposing teams should pay attention to. Let's dive in and unpack the real story behind this roster change.
Winning. Being able to play with Caitlin Clark, I think that was a huge eye-opening. I had the opportunity to play with one of the greatest players that's ever going to play the game of basketball. So for me, once I also heard that, she really wants me here too, I was like, let's get it done then. There's no questions about it.
During Fever Media Day, Myisha Hines-Allen made a notable and revealing comment during her press conference. She spoke about how meaningful it was to join a team featuring Caitlin Clark, describing Clark as one of the greatest talents the game will ever see. She also shared that once she learned Clark specifically wanted her in Indiana, her decision became straightforward. She immediately agreed to the opportunity. This reflects a broader shift in how the roster has been shaped. Clark and the Fever identified a clear need for more physical presence and toughness, and the organization moved to address that gap by bringing in the right type of player. Since joining, expectations around Hines-Allen's role have been proven wrong by early results. Some critics initially worried she might disrupt the offensive flow or focus too much on individual play. Instead, she is fully committed to a defined role centered on physical defense, rebounding, and interior presence. Her impact, however, goes beyond physicality alone. It also shows up in the numbers, where her contributions reflect a more structured and efficient level of dominance that strengthens the team's overall balance.
Myisha Hines-Allen, a few years ago when we were asking for an enforcer, everybody was acting like we were asking somebody to come out on the court and pistol whip somebody. An enforcer is somebody who will handle stuff like this, be a presence, just show them.
If you look at the available defensive analytics, the numbers clearly highlight her impact. At this point in the season, Myisha Hines-Allen ranks among the most effective defenders in the league in terms of defensive net rating impact, sitting at an impressive plus 9.6. This positions her as one of the most influential defensive presences on the floor right now from a statistical standpoint. Her role is built around physicality and control, securing rebounds, setting strong screens, and consistently denying opposing frontcourt players easy positioning near the basket. Rather than focusing on scoring or star-level production, her value comes from stability and protection. She functions as a defensive anchor that allows primary offensive players to operate with more space and confidence. Beyond the statistics, her impact also has a psychological effect. A strong interior defender changes how opponents approach the game the moment they step on the court, forcing adjustments and limiting aggression in the paint.
like choking Caitlyn, and you got to come over there and grab and pull them off of them. A lot of times it's just, oh, we saw that. Okay. Next time down, boom, chicken wing to that girl. And it's like, oh, just a message. She got to send messages and let it be known.
As AK Nation TV noted, an enforcer doesn't need extreme actions to make an impact. The role is more about presence and control than direct confrontation. A true enforcer functions much like security at a high-end store. Simply being visible is enough to influence behavior and discourage unnecessary aggression. Their presence alone changes how opponents approach the game. When opposing players see Hines-Allen positioned inside, it naturally makes them more cautious about physical or overly aggressive plays. If a team like the Chicago Sky tries to test that physical edge, she responds with strong, legal screens that set a clear tone for how the paint will be played. This kind of interior toughness is important not only for Caitlin Clark, but also for the development and confidence of the team's younger players as a whole.
And then when you get the rebound on defense, the defensive rebound, get the ball to Caitlyn. Do not dribble that ball down the court. That's not you. Okay? And I get it. Sometimes you look for Caitlyn and she's being face guarded. Just hold the ball and let her juke her man and break free and then get her the ball. Don't just instantly see her face guarded and then just...
Aaliyah Boston has grown into an outstanding offensive center and continues to establish herself as one of the league's top young frontcourt players. However, game film has occasionally shown moments where she has had difficulty matching the more physical style of veteran opponents in the paint. Adding Hines-Allen gives the roster an important layer of toughness and physical support while Boston continues developing that stronger edge defensively and emotionally inside the post. At the same time, to keep the analysis fair and balanced, there is still one key area in Hines-Allen's game that needs improvement moving forward. When you grab a defensive rebound, the priority should not be dribbling coast to coast through heavy transition pressure. That is not the role of an elite enforcer. The first responsibility is simple: find Caitlin Clark and get the ball into her hands as quickly as possible. Even when defenses try to deny her the ball, patience matters. Let Clark work to create separation, then make the smart pass instead of forcing a risky fast break push that can lead to turnovers in the corner. Indiana's offense is at its most dangerous and efficient when Clark controls the pace and decision-making. Moving away from that formula only creates unnecessary mistakes and wasted possessions. The Fever are clearly moving away from the soft identity that once made them easier to challenge physically. Caitlin Clark recognized the weaknesses, pushed for changes, and the defensive improvements are beginning to show in both the eye test and the analytics. Subscribe to WNBA Pro for more bold basketball breakdowns, intense analysis, and deep dives into the stories shaping the league. Drop your strongest opinion in the comments. Does Caitlin Clark already have one of the sharpest basketball minds in the WNBA? And how much impact is Myisha Hines-Allen bringing defensively? Turn on notifications because the intensity around the league keeps rising. The numbers continue telling the story, and we'll be covering every major development ahead.